Good day to you all. I welcome you to this lecture on the topic History of Civil Engineering of the subject Introduction to Civil Engineering as per the directives of MACOT. The subject code is CEHS 302 and the module is 2. Myself, Sandeepan Saha, Assistant Professor for the Department of Civil Engineering of the Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management under JIS Group. Now, let us proceed to the lecture.
Let us first have a look on the topics that we will be covering in the lecture. That is, early constructions and developments over time, ancient monuments and modern marvels, development of various materials of construction and methods of construction, works of eminent civil engineers. Let us first have the idea that what civil engineering is. As we know that civil engineering is a discipline of engineering that deals with the design, construction, maintenance of the physically and naturally built environment, including the works like roads, bridges, canals, dams, buildings, to make the lives of the people better, livable, sustainable. As we already know, that is, civil engineering can be categorized into various specializations like structural engineering, geotechnical engineering, water resources engineering, environmental engineering, and so on. And this is the second most oldest engineering after military engineering. And the civil engineers can be employed in the public sectors from various municipal bodies to the national governments to the private sectors, both in the international and national levels. So, in this lecture, we were trying to understand the history of civil engineering. As we know that if we need to understand the present and to predict the future, first we need to learn the history. So, here the history of civil engineering that we will be dealing. The first major construction was found in the time, that is the pyramids of Egypt, which was built during the estimated time, that is 2700 BC to 2500 BC. There are some other ancient historic constructions also, which includes the Canat, and this is a water management system introduced by the Romans, and this is more than 3000 years old, and this particular water management system had a length of 21 kilometers. So you can see it's a pretty much major civil engineering construction work done by the Romans. There are some other famous ancient construction also, that is, one of them are Parthenian, which we can find in ancient Greece, and it was constructed during the 447 to 438 BC, followed by the Appian Way by the Romance engineers, constructed during 312 BC, and the Great Wall of China by the General Meng Tian under the orders from Chinese Emperor Shi Huangdi during the 220 BC. The various civil engineering structures were developed by the Romans. Actually, Romans have introduced civil engineers in pretty much modern way in the ancient times. They have implemented, they have constructed several aqueducts, insulae, harbors, bridges, dams, and roads for the advancement of Roman Empire. These there are some pictures that I am going to show you in the following slides. First one is the famous Egyptian pyramids. This one is from Giza of Egypt. This one is the Karnak. This is one of the major civil engineering construction that was implemented by the Romans. It was a water management system. It was around 31 kilometers long, and it was constructed during the ancient times, which is more than 3000 years ago. This one is Parthenon. This one is the Great Wall of China. This was all constructed in the ancient times. So you can see civil engineering is pretty much old engineering. And this is Chichen Itza. It was a large pre-Columbian city in Mexico built by the Mayan people of the post-classic Mayan times. And this is the Roman aqueduct built at around 19 BC near Pont du Dart, France. In the ancient times, the civil engineering was associated with the military engineering. But in the 18th century, civil engineering was coined to incorporate all things civilian as opposed to military engineering. John Smeaton was the first self-proclaimed civil engineer who constructed the Eddystone Lighthouse. You can see an aerial view of the lighthouse that was built by Mr. John Smeaton. So, we have mentioned several ancient structures, but I have already mentioned that we need to understand the history. So, in the following slides, we will be mentioning the development of civil engineering over the time. So, these are the development of civil engineering from Neolithic construction, followed by Mesopotamia construction, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Roman, ancient India, and construction started in 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th centuries. To the
So our first civil engineering examples can be found during the Neolithic construction time. The first building were simple huts, tents, and shelters meant to suit the basic needs of protection. During this time, the presence of metal tools could not be found. But still, some stone structures using dry stone walling techniques were constructed. The first mud bricks formed with the hands rather than any wooden molds belong to the late Neolithic period, and it was found in Jericho. This is a classic example of the elaborate stone structures with simple dry stone walling techniques. And this is the picture of one of the largest structures from this period, that is the Neolithic longhouse. These also some simple dry wall techniques, dry stone wall techniques constructed during the Neolithic times. These are the same applications. Now we come to the ancient Mesopotamian times. In this era, several large-scale buildings were found. This is the picture of ziggurat of Ur, in presently situated in Iran. And another fine example is the ziggurat at Chogha-Zanbil in modern Iran. These are the fine examples of ancient Mesopotamian style of construction. During this time, the building materials was a mud brick. It was formed using the wooden molds. The bricks which were used were varied widely in size and formats, from small bricks that could be lifted in one hand to one as big as large paving slabs. This is a picture of a drawing survived on a clay tablets from later periods showing that buildings were set out on brick modules. During the later stage of Mesopotamian civilization, especially during the Babylonian era and then the Susa era, glazed brickwork were found. As you can see here, this is a picture which is showing that use of glazed brickwork were found in this time. And this is a picture of archaeological site in 1932, before major reconstruction work was undertaken by Saddam Hussein. There are some other pictures of constructions from that era, which is a classic example of ancient Mesopotamian construction style using the glazed bricks. These are also these are also the examples of same time. Now we come to the ancient Egyptian time. During this era, the major construction was done using huge blocks of stones. And this style was pretty much different from the Mesopotamian times, as during the Mesopotamian times, major construction was done using bricks, but in Egypt, the major construction was done using stones. Although there are some common structures also which was constructed using mud bricks. As we know that Egypt, the climate of Egypt is hot, dry. So it was pretty much ideal to form the mud bricks. And this following picture is the Ramesseum of Thebes in Egypt, which is one of the most finest examples of mud brick construction done during the ancient Egyptian time. As we know, most of the major constructions were done using huge blocks of stones in the ancient Egyptian time. And the style of construction, the technology they used is still a mystery till date. But in order to bring the massive stones to the construction site was pretty much a primitive technology. They used what? Now, they used rollers, ropes, sledges by large number of slaves, which is a very much primitive technology to construct their most precious and important structures. And these are the pictures of famous pyramids built around 3000 to 4000 years ago. The same thing, that is the pictures of pyramids. So These are the examples of ancient Egyptian construction style. Now, we come to the ancient Greek times, where common buildings were constructed using mud bricks, like the ancient Mesopotamians and Greeks. Here is a picture of Parthenon, an ancient Greek temple, and a classic example of ancient Greek architectural and construction work. Buildings during this time were constructed using simple brick, beams, and columns without walls and arches. The Greeks were mathematically so advanced that they introduced the application of pulley to build cranes for lifting heavy stonework. But they never developed the strong mortars as the Romans do. These are some pictures of ancient Greek construction work. Now we come to the ancient Roman construction style. During this time, a huge improvement was found as they introduced hydraulic lime mortar, and they have used brick or stone to the outer skin of the wall and then filled the cavity with concrete. Using arches, domes in the structures were the classic style during this time. They have even introduced sophisticated heating and ventilation system into the structures. They even used glass at the windows. This is a picture of ancient Roman construction work. Here are some pictures of ancient Roman construction style where you can see the use of arches, domes in the structure. And these are also some classic examples of ancient Roman construction. Now, the ancient Indian era. Construction works from Vedic, Buddhist, and Gupta period are discussed here. During the Vedic period, wood and bamboo were the major construction material. Houses of the Vedic period were made of wood with bamboo rigging, roofs were thatched, and walls were made of reed bundles in wooden framework. Palace and temple construction brought new challenges for the ancient Indian builders. During the Buddhist era, a dome-like structure, stupa, was a major example of the Buddhist architectural work, as shown in the picture. In this construction, unbaked bricks were used in the inner structure of the stupa and baked bricks at the outer walls. The diameter of the stupa was as large as 120 feet. During the Gupta period, the major points of the construction work are that use of blocks of stones for the temples, high-rise buildings, as several temples reached to the heights of 200 feet. Heavy monolithic sculpture work was formed, but no mortars were used during this period. As the 17th century witnessed the birth of modern science, which affected the change in construction technology. Here is an example from this time. Use of lime mortar started from this time, along with the use of glass for various construction styles. Various experiments were done for the improvement of hydraulic mortar in this time. The 18th century witnessed more professional ideas in civil engineering. As I have already mentioned, the name of John Smeaton, who constructed the Eddystone Lighthouse, a classic example of more professional civil engineering construction work, started from this time. At the same time, boom in industrial revolution saw increase in the size of cities and increased in pace and quantity of the construction. This is a classic example from this time. Use of iron was a major breakthrough for the construction work during this time. Even massive brick construction work were seen during this time in Europe. This is the picture of iron bridge at Coalbrookdale, which was built in 1779. Is a classic example of construction work from this time. These are all notable examples which were done during the 18th century. 19th century is a time of industrial revolution age. To support this rapid industrialization, several new infrastructures in form of railways, canals, roads, etc. were installed. From mid-19th century, use of steel and reinforced concrete in various structures were noted. Here are some pictures which shows the type of construction work were done during this time. As you can see, these pictures depicts the same. During the 20th century, modernization was done in civil engineering. High-rise buildings and skyscrapers become possible by the use of elevators and cranes and other heavy equipments. Computer-aided design, energy conservation, and sustainable development in the construction technology have become major features. Here are some pictures from the construction work done during this time. This is a famous Lotus Temple situated in Delhi, and this is the famous Sydney Opera House. These are also some eminent examples of construction work during the 20th century. And this is Burj Khalifa. Burj Khalifa is a classic example of modern day construction work. In the 21st century, construction technology has become more advanced, which made possible for construction of several iconic buildings like Burj Khalifa. And this is also the picture of the Burj Khalifa during the night. And this kind of structures, what we can experience in the coming future. Now, let me mention some works of eminent civil engineers, in the past and in the recent times. The first name is Gustave Eiffel. He is the man behind the construction of Eiffel Tower in Paris. Then John Bradfield. He is the person behind the designing and constructing the famous Sydney Harbour Bridge. Then comes John Smeaton. Actually, he played a crucial role in the development of modern day civil engineering. Smeaton was responsible for design of various canals, bridges, lighthouses, and harbours, which is why he is considered as the father of civil engineering. John Smeaton also conducted various water wheel experiments which saw increasing efficiency in water power. This success also contributed to the Industrial Revolution during the 18th century. John Smeaton is also the founder of Society of Civil Engineers. The Square Whipple. Square Whipple was a civil engineer who specialized in designing and building bridges, and he also nicknamed as the father of iron bridge building. His contribution in civil engineering as the bowstring arch truss design. Then comes Mr. Thomas Tilford. He was also a notable Scottish civil engineer for constructing of several bridges, roads, canals. He was also the first elected president of Institution of Civil Engineers. Then comes John A. Ribling. John A. Ribling was a German-American civil engineer who was famous for designing and building the rope suspension bridges. Then come the Othmar Hermann Ammann. He was a Swiss-American structural engineer who designed notable bridges such as Bayonne Bridge, Verrazano Bridge, Narrow Bridge, George Washington Bridge in America. During this lecture, we have seen the development of civil engineering over the time in form of improvement in construction methods and materials. From this, we can say that where we are standing today, we are shaping the modern world. In every corner of the world, we can see this. Thank you.